Here is my request. You don't have to play it, but I hope you'll do your best. I've been listening to your show on the radio, and you seem like a friend to me.
Great drum sound, very natural. So what year is this? Yeah. Fretless bass.
Well, I'm not uptight, not on a track.
They're combining so many unappealing sounds into one.
That was the dude's. That was his gimmick. He had.
It's not Tony Levin?
It's not Tony Levin. It's I forget the guy's name, but he's a.
Oh, I can get the.
That was his gimmick was he was a fretless player.
I thought it was fucking Tony Levin.
No.
The Firm.
The Firm.
This is a reissue.
Maybe it was 84, 83.
Even in the 80s, they made guys like Paul Rodgers had a kind of a more neurotic bent. Like in the 70s, he was like wild Indian woman. And in the 80s, he's like, I'm not uptight. I'm not unattractive. You know what I mean?
Did Paul Rodgers actually write the music?
He must have wrote the lyrics.
I mean, the lyrics, yeah.
Okay, we're going right into The Firm. You're listening to the world's worst rock and roll podcast.
Now, got a little erotic love. The way she taking me out is enough. Somebody's messing my brain. Going pain.
We're doing a 3-hour special on The Firm.
We're doing a special that is about approximately 4 times as long as the only recorded output of the band.
Right down the line, going up and up.
All right, we're recording. Crying out loud.
Topics already covered on the cutting room floor. The Firm.
The Firm.
Flowers in the Dirt.
Flowers in the Dirt.
We're going to begin
in
with
the dirt.
We're going to begin with the public service announcement. To Tuesday Night Band, please properly dispose of your garbage or recycling. The dumpster is not provided by your landlord, and leaving your garbage next to the dumpster is not fair to your neighbors. Thank you. Sarcastic period.
How do you know when a period is sarcastic?
When somebody types a note like that.
Yeah. Brought that, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, if you people could only see the beautiful bottle of Yamasaki single malt.
If there's one thing I love, it's Japanese versions of Western culture.
What was it? It's Suntory time.
I didn't know Suntory was a real company.
It's a real motherfucking whiskey.
Yeah. The reason why we decided to go through all this fucking trouble to set up microphones and record ourselves talking, it's kind of along the lines of Paul Rodgers suggesting You've Lost That Love and Feeling.
This is the podcast equivalent of The Firm's debut and only record that has no reason to exist.
I think they have another record.
I think there's like
I think there's 2.
I don't think it's a record. I think it's like there's like an EP or there's like a mini something. They couldn't fart out another record because
if they were digging into the Righteous Brothers. Yeah.
That was a cheers.
Awesome.
All right, so we're going to go through vaguely, in a non-tedious manner, important songs or albums or things that opened a door to a deeper temple of geekery. Yes. I think is the idea, right?
Yeah, the overarching, as far as, I don't know, we haven't really talked about this, but I see it as the overarching theme of this show is nerdery. It's not necessarily about music. It just happens to be the thing that we're super into. But
yes.
Why do people choose things like music as a filter to, take in the universe? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why is it that when I look at a list of songs, I'm reminded more about my life than, talking to my mom,
That's...
It's sad.
No, but I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So we figured a good introduction to the series.
You can listen to this, and by the time we get to 2112, you can just delete it, and you'll never have to listen again, and you'll just know that in some sad corner of cyberspace, two grown men are drinking Japanese whiskey and talking about the Mekons. And somewhere,
Not just
the sound
talking
of-
about the Mekons. We're probably going to spend at least 45 minutes comparing the Mekons to Billy Squier at some point.
Right.
Just be prepared for that.
Okay, so rules are that everybody has things they don't. Like, I'm self-conscious about big holes in my geekery.
Okay.
So there'll be things that I just will have, like, I have no, like,
Yes.
Tom Waits, I got nothing.
Exactly.
Never-
And same thing with that's the thing.
You're probably the same way with Marillion, you know? There's just.
The Hooters, like I just don't.
Hooters.
I just only know the one song.
I think they're melodica rock. Are they the entire beginning and end of that genre? Was there more than one melodica in the Hooters?
Oh, melodica rock.
Melodica.
I thought you said melodic rock.
No. They don't belong in the melodic. Well, the only reason that I sadly got into Marillion is because I had sadly gotten deeply into Genesis as a result of the incredible and unprecedented and completely bewildering success of Phil Collins.
No way. So you
I went
got
deep.
into Marillion from some place else. It wasn't. Oh, this band's cool. Like I'm gonna.
I don't think
buy that record.
I don't think anywhere where I grew up you could maybe that the video for Kaylee would be like on it an hour, but I wouldn't be up. I was too young. I mean, we got MTV at a certain point,
Right.
and then later there's a whole section here of like 120 minute stuff that I think is like that was like a beacon in the suburban
Oh yeah, definitely.
wasteland for sure. Mm-hmm. And some of those are gateway drugs that are embarrassing on their own, but
Yep. I had to negotiate with my parents. It's like, okay, I need the VCR from 12 to 2 a.m. on Sunday nights. Like, I know you're going to tape whatever mystery on, from 9 to 10, but if you could...
my parents had like 3 buckets full of mystery and Rumpola the Bailey.
Yep.
That's my new stage name.
Now, got a little of Monica love.
No, my dad was super into that stuff.
Hooters. Philly. I didn't know they were from Philly.
Really?
And they're associated with Cyndi Lauper.
Huh. Were they a backup band or something?
Yeah, I don't know how you get. Okay, a mix of rock, reggae, ska, and folk music. Okay, first of all, they're using every bullshit heartland signifier at once.
Just
Mandolin,
bam,
melodica, accordion. I don't even know. It's just like, but don't be fooled. It's like the most mall rock you're ever gonna get. Kick slide,
fucking
gigantic
Let's bring it back to the 80s. Like, yeah.
kick slide with a headless guitar and fucking hella hairspray.
It's like, what is this? This Come On, Eileen? No, it's not. Sorry.
Who's that bullshit mandolin? Like, fuck you! It's the 80s. We're having fun. This is a podcast about the worst music in the world.
The way she took me out is enough. Somebody's messing my brain.
Okay, go to your first. What's the childhood? Yeah.
What's the first?
Pick the
child?
first,
Okay.
like the
My first, musical memory.
Yeah.
My first memory having to do with listening to music.
Yeah.
Was when I was very young. I don't remember how old I was. I've been trying to piece it together in my mind. I think I was 6.
This is Adam S. speaking.
Yes. Adam S. My parents bought me this really super cheap orange and white plastic turntable record player, and they had a bunch of 45 RPM singles, and it was just this, I don't know, they may have talked to the store clerk and said, can you just give us like, I don't know, a dozen or so.
The hit parade.
Yeah, the hit parade at the time. But the thing is, everything was kind of earlier than, it wasn't.
The hit parade, but the hit parade was like, would be the contents of like a K-Tel thing. It would be right. They would be like, and they would be from a slightly previous era. It wasn't like they were giving you what was on the charts at that moment.
Mm-hmm. But most of this stuff was from the early 70s. Yeah. And there was one K-Tel record, fantastic, 22 hits by 22 original artists, of which
they had to specify that because there would be like a K-Tel album, but it would all be shitty covers, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They had the ones where it was songs, yeah. But yeah, they would just have some band playing them. But this was 22 hits by 22 original artists. Unfortunately, there's 2 Elton John songs, so it's totally false advertising because it's 21 artists instead of 22. But
one was Reg Dwight. To be fair. I'm looking at the playlist of the Fantastic 22 hits.
Yeah, I have it on here too.
So good.
And
this is like the Rosetta Stone.
And seriously, that might be the most influential album for me in my life. Like I revisiting this record, like I bought it again at the WFMU record fair probably in like 1995 for $1, pristine condition. I like the one that I found was in the dollar bin, it was mint
Untouched,
condition.
Yeah. White label promo.
And the one that I had,
do they have white label promos of K-Tel records?
I don't know.
They wouldn't press a promo version of that. No, that can't exist. That doesn't make sense.
And the funny thing is, like, I made a copy of it for you and recording it into the computer. More than half of the songs are edited, like they're faded out early. Yeah. They'll just chop the intro off. Yeah.
Lots of awkward fade-ins because they're trying to jam as many
22
grooves
songs
into the vinyl.
It's 55 minutes on one
rock and
disc.
Roll. Tie a yellow ribbon, and that's it.
Right.
It's like
no, yeah, everything's and then, but the thing is, like, the mastering's just a mess too. It's like songs way louder. Crocodile Rock is like so gratingly trebly. It's just like this sizzle on top of the entire thing, just like. Anyway, that was like a big record for me. And then I had this handful of singles. The one that stands out is definitely "Bad by Leroy Brown" by Jim Croce.
Jim Croce would be one where the song would come on the radio and I'd be in the back of the car and my dad would make a point of saying like something like get it? Like the story. Like that's clever. Like either like on a there were 2, the Working at the Car Wash Blues, right. And
Don't Mess Around with Jim.
But then the sad one...
Time in a Bottle.
The sad ones are...
Operator.
Operator's...
that just slays me.
I mean, that is a brutal...
You Can Keep the Dime.
God.
Fuck.
Croce stands up.
He does.
He does not get filed under,
He doesn't. And the funny thing is, so I loved Bad Leroy Brown so much, and I would play it, and I would just leave it out, and then I'd be horsing around as kids would do, and then I broke them. I went through 2 or 3 of these singles. Like I would just like put it on the couch and then sit on it and then break it. So finally, my parents wisened up and was like, well, if we just buy him Jim Croce's greatest hits, Photographs and Memories.
Photographs and Memories.
Photographs and Memories.
That should definitely had a TV.
Yeah.
You could buy that.
Mm-hmm. So I finally got that, the whole thing, and then I explored the other stuff like Roller Derby Queen and
what's the
Time in a Bottle and Don't Mess Around with Jim.
The race car.
Hot Rod Roy and his something or.
Well, south side of Chicago is the baddest part of town.
So yeah, I had all these singles. I had Ballroom Blitz by the Sweet and Little Willie by the Sweet. I had
Powerful.
Express by BT Express. I don't know where that came from. Rendezvous by Hudson Brothers was huge. I don't know. And Bad Blood by Neil Sedaka, which was on the same label with the little train on it. I don't remember the label, but...
Neil Sedaka,
and the B-side of Rendezvous was that medley, the really
the one
medley.
from
and it scared me as a kid. I used to love Rendezvous, and I flipped that over, and it was like,
I'm sick and tired of the LA scene, with all the faggots and drag queens.
what the hell's
the voice
going on?
is
What's he
super
talking
ragged,
about?
and they were on like a variety TV show.
They were like a kid. It's like the Bay City Rollers just suddenly, you know what? Let's do a song about cocaine. You know,
Yeah,
like
it would be like,
that.
it would be like the Bay City Rollers, Satanic Majesties or something.
Bay City Rollers, Satanic Majesty's Request.
Got to get myself out of the river.
Yeah, seriously, it freaked me out as a kid.
That Hudson Brothers medley is their
And yeah, it's their side B of Abbey Road.
Right.
It's side B of Rendezvous.
like this is what band, this is what serious bands do.
Well, they
Totally Out of Control is the name of the record, appropriately, because they were fucking totally insane. Hudson Brothers.
I think they had a big kind of struggle with being, on the one hand, they really wanted to sell out, but then they also really wanted to be serious, and they kind of, I think they jumped onto the variety show way too fast and kind of screwed themselves.
Because being in a band versus being on TV was like an order of magnitude more sellout-y, quote unquote, and
Right.
exposed. Because, I mean, just the whole pool of everything was smaller in general. Mm-hmm. I mean, Johnny Cash had a TV show though.
Yeah. Well,
But the point of the brothers, the
that
family,
was a kid's
like,
show. Yeah, it was a children's show.
It was teeny bopper-ish.
Mm-hmm. I revisited that show recently. It's there's nothing for adults. You know how like all the best TV's, children's stuff, it always has the little there's the little subtext going on for the adults to keep them interested. This had nothing. And God bless my parents for like sitting there and watching this fucking show with me. It was so bad. It wasn't funny. It was just wacky. And oh God, it's miserable. TV. We're living in a golden age of TV. Like TV was so bad in the 70s. Kids, you don't know how good you have it.
So it's not really, it feels like looking at the 22 hits, it feels like there's this, we kind of talked about this, but like, was it a golden age for a semi-genreless, like you'd hear Bill Withers and then you'd hear
Right.
The Sweet, like those could be back to back, but it's not really the case that didn't happen in the 80s, except the songs were shittier, and it did happen in the 50s, right? We looked at the 50s.
Yeah. I mean,
so it's just that we're nostalgic. We're just that it's our childhood, so it feels.
I think
better.
No, I don't know what it was. I think it was kind of. I think in the 80s is when things started to get really separate, where you had R&B, and R&B kind of ruled the charts. You know what I mean? In the history of pop music, 40s, 50s, 60s, the kind of big era of Billboard and Cashbox and whatever, it was just across the board. You had Patsy Cline 1 minute, Frank Sinatra, the Hollies, and then
Ray Charles would be on the country charts and the pop charts,
right?
Like,
but in the 80s, I think it's when the R&B just had the stranglehold on it. Got
fortunately
its claws into
all of music
top 40.
shared the most like just terrible production. as the you can hear just the sound of the technology making shit worse. Mm-hmm. It was like the era where you heard the orchestra hit sample in every song, and that wasn't just any genre. Right. That was like, we just discovered a new sound, and we're going to put that in every song. Like, the sound of modernity is like, whoop, whoop. Like that shitty Synclavier orchestra hit sample. that's all like Owner of a Lonely Heart.
I think the culprit in that scenario is technology was really primitive. You know,
like that wasn't just as easy to do that as it would be today, right? Like to get the synclavier orchestrated sample was like that was like a guy in a lab coat or like programming a gigantic box,
right? But the thing is, like, you went from bands playing, funk bands and disco bands playing together, a bass player and a drummer coming up with a beat, and trying to stay in time and working, I don't know, like
right?
just
It's flipped on its head.
Bringing a human element to it, and when a bass player and drummer
once a sequencer basically became easy enough to program,
right?
Because there was like the era of electronic music where it's still being played by a person kind of imperfectly.
That's what it was in the 80s. That's when things got sequenced. Like, we were talking about Kraftwerk earlier, and it's just like, for them to make the music, it was definitely physical. You see them looking at, with their little consoles, just like pushing
the drum
buttons.
pads, to have a, like it wasn't like a copy paste,
right?
Boot, like somebody was doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
And somebody had to create the kick and snare white noise sound. That wasn't like Patch 34.
Right.
White noise.
Mm-hmm. And today it's really easy to get natural sounding, drums with, computers and stuff like that. But back in the day, once it hit that point where it's like, okay, we can do sequence, boom, damn, boom, bam. The technology was only getting these things to go in a pattern,
Yeah.
There was, we got that. We're set. That's taken care of. We don't need to worry about it. There's no a drum machine's not going to practice and discover like things about music. You know what I mean? It's just you hit the button and it goes.
And there was like widespread fear like that drum machines would put real drummers out of business. Mm-hmm. Like that was a real thing.
And the funny thing is that even though people on the street couldn't really tell you why, they know that they don't like drum machines as much as real drummers.
Even like Kraftwerk played versus it's like the post-sequencer era.
Right.
Like even their stuff, although I love Computer World, it's obvious that at that point the shit is being programmed.
Right.
The rhythms are programmed. Versus a little wonky where they're trying to play like a robot, which is like the krautrock thing, I guess. Like you're hypnotically playing, and then that makes you shit your pants or something, right? That's what the guy said, right?
What
Jackie the drummer from Cannes, I remember he was like, I could play a frequency that would make you move your bowels.
Wow, like the brown note, except it's just a drum pattern. Wow.
I felt like we're kind of getting into like I'm not trying to say that like modern music sucks. It's just there's a certain era where
what are you fucking saying about modern music?
The production sucked of a certain era of music.
What?
And you hear the laziness too, though, right?
Of what?
When even though so early, if you have to make every electronic sound, right? That's a lot of work. That's not saving you any time. It's because you're Kraftwerk and you think like this is the future, or you're into that and you're crafting those sounds literally, right? But then it becomes kind of shortcutty, and I feel like there's like laziness in writing because you can just kind of lean on it. And
right.
Now I feel like we're way into that, where it's even more lazy. It doesn't sound overtly robotic, but it's like CGI in movies. It's like the reason that you go and see the new Star Wars movie, and it feels like everything's made out of like slippery, like you can't touch anything, right? It's like, as opposed to a guy in a rubber mask.
And exactly. Yeah, no, totally. Like they make it very easy. Like GarageBand is very easy to like make a professional sounding song.
Every piece is like pre-produced,
right?
Like so that if you layer it, it all just kind of goes whoop.
it just fits together, and you're like, oh, perfect.
And
I have a song.
That's very.
It's
tempting.
It's
seductive. Right. It's seductive because and it doesn't sound like people are people. You know, it doesn't sound like it sounds like
an
iPod
GarageBand.
commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time before people start relying on that too heavily, and then the lawsuits come out where it's like people have they've actually made the exact same song. It's not like you've ripped off this guy. You've actually
So that was the thing. That was the thing where they played Avril Lavigne Complicated on top of some other really shitty 1/5 minor 6/4 song. And the whole songs could scan on top of each other. The tempo was identical. The changes were identical enough that you could overlay them, and it just was fine. But it was fine in like a really like, you're like drooling. And I mean, like I just think.
Life's like this.
We're now way out in like grumpy, like boomer rock podcast land.
We are.
So what are we not going to do?
So
no lists.
No
top 10 lists of this month, best records of this list month.
What was I going to say? No rated lists, or no lists where things are ordered in some sort of sense. You know what I mean?
No. And so we're going to have lists of songs that inspire what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can listen to them.
Playlists and stuff like that online. But there's no best to worst list. Like, here's the top 10 this.
No, nothing. Not the top 10 songs in D minor, not the top 10 Bob Dylan songs.
Right.
Any of that.
Why don't you take me on?
We're not going to rant about how modern music production makes shittier music like we just did.
Shit. Fuck, I wish I knew how to erase shit on this computer.
Now, got a little